everybody. Welcome to the full moon. So good to see you here on this powerful day of the month, every 28 days. We have another cycle that we all can see in the sky because we're all looking at it together, the clock in the sky. So it's so good to remember that so that you can sort of look up and say, oh, it's that time of connection that we're all going to connect together in a conscious way to make conscious awareness on this planet and to help at this time where we really need attention, to pay attention, to not numb out, to not go away, to keep your eye on the ball, right? I love the phrase I made up a week ago or something, which is, the lighthouse doesn't jump in the ocean to save the ship, right? So there's this place of standing still and standing steady, and when we meditate, that's what we're doing. We're standing steady in consciousness and in unified consciousness. And the unification that blends all of this is love. It's love. So that love, that heart to heart to heart that we connect by and with, creates this ever-increasing, exponentially increasing radiance, right? A greater light, a greater lighthouse, because we're all coming together to meditate together when two or more are gathered. There's power in that. There's consciousness in that. And so here we are meeting together, and this full moon is in Virgo. So Virgo, right? A lot of you are Virgos. You might have a Virgo moon, you might have Virgo rising. Everybody's got Virgo somewhere in the horoscope, right? And you can always look to see on your chart, and it's good to know what your chart looks like so that you can see where things kind of land and see, how it might be affecting you, these energies. So before we started, I had that image of the two planets that were conjunct in the sky all week and are still tonight. They're starting to come apart. They're starting to separate. But in the sky, they were right together very powerfully. And I'm going to show the chart right now. And so what we have here is just, if for some of you that know a little bit of astrology, you don't need to understand this, so don't worry about it. But it's just interesting for some of you that do. This is the moon in 16 Virgo 40. Here's the sun, 16 Pisces 40, exactly opposite. That's what creates the full moon. It's trining Uranus, sextiling Uranus, squaring Mars. There's some urgency to all of this. And that Jupiter-Venus conjunction is right there. I didn't write it in. I should have. That Jupiter-Venus is still in the sky, but look what's in between of it. That's Chiron. So Chiron is called the wounded healer. And so it's very auspicious in the sense that it's now even more so, it's surrounding Chiron. Everybody has a major kind of core wound, right? Abandonment, self-loathing, things that are like really difficult, that are our core wound that keeps tripping us most of our life long. And even when we heal it, it still trips, because when we get stressed, when we get scared, when we feel cornered, of course that comes out still. So here's Chiron, the wound, surrounded by Jupiter, the planet of healing and joy and wisdom and teaching and learning and understanding, and Venus, the planet of love and ease and beauty. All of this together is it's like a guarantee, it's a guarantee of this healing that is trying to happen within us is happening. The other thing that's really important, though, and what's kind of slowing everything down, is Saturn is at 29 Aquarius, and it's going to change signs in an hour after the moon is full exact. The moon is full exact at 4:40 a.m. tonight, or in the morning tomorrow. So March 7th, 4:40 a.m., really early. An hour later at 5:45 around, Saturn changes sign into Pisces while the sun is in Pisces. So it means that for the next 2.5 years about, Saturn's going to be in Pisces. And it's a very deep expression of Saturn. It's not a happy place for Saturn exactly, but I love it there because it brings a concretization or a manifestational part to this dreamy Pisces. So we're in this dreamy Pisces, very dreamy, it's all imagination, and Saturn is coming in Pisces too. Well, Saturn makes things so. Saturn makes them real, right? Saturn makes things realized. So here it's coming, 29:59, one more minute, right, to in the morning tonight at 5:40 around. Saturn moves into Pisces too. So we've got this big conjunction, Saturn, Mercury, Sun, and Neptune, all in Pisces, opposed Virgo, which is what we're going to be talking more about, the Virgo aspect of this, in this very powerful chart. And the Sabian symbol for you that like to know is a volcano erupting. That's what the moon Sabian symbol is. So we'll see how that plays out. So anyway, that's just some astrological information about it. And so how do you work with these energies? You know, what are the energies of Virgo anyway? And so I thought I'd do my little Virgo rap so you can hear, like, these are some of the qualities of Virgo. So if you know any Virgos, these are sometimes often true of them. Of course, depending on the rest of the chart, you know, can be very different in terms of how there can be very messy Virgos, but they're not very common, but they exist. So one of the key words for Virgo is neat, right? They usually are neat. Realistic, logical, pure, efficient, patient, responsible, reliable, modest, conscientious, discerning, disciplined, practical, health conscious, helpful, methodical, analytical, critical, organized, exact, and exacting, you know, the verb of exact. They tend to worry, right? They're worriers like Cancers are too. They're picky, neat, there's my neat word, and meticulous. And my favorite word for Virgo, and everybody knows this one, is perfectionist, right? They like to do things just so. And so those energies are what we're using in this full moon of how do those kind of qualities, can you bring that into your life? Precision, right? Organization. How can you bring service is another word that you could use for Virgo. And so in your chart, where's your Virgo, right? And what house is it in? And you would see where this full moon is shining, like let's say it was in your house of your house, like where you live, you know, it might be a good time to do spring cleaning, right? To clean out your house. And if it's in your house of, you know, metaphysical, 12th house kind of stuff, it might be about cleaning up your act, like getting tighter about your disciplines of spiritual disciplines. And so one of the things I'm going to ask in this full moon, and when we go into the meditation, is, you know, what needs your attention? That type of attention, that precision, that staying with something. I'm calling it, you know, chop wood, carry water, like to pay attention to the details and to really, you know, finish things that you start, make lists. These are all Virgo kinds of things. And if your life is very moving and chaotic right now, and a lot of people's are, I've noticed, then you might be really find this valuable, right? To really insert this for this whole month, to use those qualities of organization and order, and put them into your physical routines, into the way you eat, into the way that you deal with others, that you kind of clean it up, you know. And especially what would be good is to meditate, right? That's like the obvious practice of all practices. So Virgo, in a way, the sign Virgo would rule practices, things that you do as a routine. Every day I do the crossword puzzle, right? Or every day I take a walk, or every day, those kinds of things that we do routinely. And to love those routine things, to not think of them as tedious, but as the luxury of having a routine to do. You get to, sit and read the newspaper. I used to get the newspaper in the old days when you got newspapers, and I would really read it, really learn about the world and learn about things. And it was something I really liked to do, and it would take a long time. So I had to get up early to make the time to do it, right? Because it was like a big commitment, And now I have other things that I do, and that especially meditation, of course. But what in your life needs some order? What in your life can you bring, more consciousness to? The word derailed comes to mind with all the things that are happening around our country right now and the world, actually, with trains. And I thought it was such an interesting thing that's happening outside. And I think a lot of people kind of feel a little bit derailed. And so when that happens in our lives, when things get exploded or snapped or changed suddenly, it's the practices that we use of bringing yourself back to the center become really, really important. It becomes the way you survive it. And not only survive it, but thrive with it. That you can actually be creative to it rather than just be blown up and to smithereens by it. How do you use these practices, right? To reorganize yourself, to chop wood, carry water, to just do the thing that's in front of you. There's a sense of helplessness, as we are seeing these things that are happening around the world and can't really do anything about them exactly, particularly, and right, we can't go to that place necessarily unless you happen to be there. But we can do something about right where we are. And so part of the kind of common sense of this is to practice being kind in the place that you're standing, in your relationship, in your neighborhood. The thing I talk about often, I go around and pick up trash around the neighborhood. That's such a Virgo thing to do. That's such a practice, right? That there's nobody knows I'm doing it. If anybody noticed, I would try not to be noticed. Do you know? I'm just doing it because it's a little thing to do that I can make my neighborhood a little better. And I can also do major things, potentially, depending on what I have access to do, right? So it might be with someone's life. I have access to someone's life, and I can help them keep their balance, maybe, right? That's a big thing I can do. And so it's not about some big thing that you are doing that we say, oh, that's important, and that's not important. It's all important, all of it. So you start to be conscious to all the parts of it, of how you interact with your world. How you drive in traffic is a really good example, because how we drive on the freeway or just in our neighborhood, do we speed? What are we tailgating? What is the energy? Are we in chaos? Is there a lot of noise in the car inside of it? What is actually happening there? Are we angry if somebody's being rude in traffic? And so it becomes another place to practice, because goodwill begets goodwill, right? To smile at someone that you don't know, and they maybe smile back. They often don't, right? But sometimes they do. And it sort of changes the energy for that person anyway, as they walk past you. And now that energy of the world's not terrible. There are nice people on the planet. It's sort of like we're a club, of love. And so we're kind of, high-fiving each other with smiles and consciousness, and really paying attention that, you're making other people feel comfortable and safe. Virgo word, safe, is a really good Virgo word, right? To feel safe is really important for Virgos, and they're very good at making other people feel safe, right? They like to have the rules. They like to know what to expect. What's going to happen in this tonight anyway? They want to know, And so we all have Virgo in us, somewhere that's doing something, and you can sort of figure out where it is for you. But even if you don't know any of that, you can still apply the principles of that into the life. and start to use this as an opportunity to to make your life more organized and calm and safe, right? And so that there's a center point to it. The title I called this meditation as I was meditating on it this morning was Discipline and Dreaming. You know? It's like how do you make your dreams come true anyhow? Like, how does that actually work? And when you hear about people's lives that have done something that we all know what it is, they've become famous in a sense. When they tell you the story, right? It doesn't happen overnight. You know, it's a 1,000 practices, 1,000 awarenesses, a billion times of showing up to two people in their audience, right? To 1,000 people, to 10,000 people, to 1,000,000 people. And for the person that's doing that, it kind of feels the same. You know, if it's 2 people or 1,000,000 people, it's the same, because the energy that's behind it, that consciousness that we are bringing and that we're exercising in our life, and is what we're offering. So what are you offering in your life? You know, how are you doing that? And and that offering can be to make a beautiful meal, right? For a friend that needs a beautiful meal, right? To come into a beautiful environment and there's flowers on the table. I remember as a kid, you know, I grew up in Laurel Canyon, or part of the time I was in the 60s living in Laurel Canyon, which is an interesting place. And I was a pretty free kid in that I didn't have many rules about what I had to do. So I was always just kind of going into people's houses that lived around there, and a lot of musicians lived there, and I was a musician too. And so we would go and I would see all these different situations that were happening in people's homes, right? And a lot of them were young people. So, you know, all kinds of things were happening, you know, from complete chaos, utter chaos, to order. And, you know, and it depended on how you felt. Just think about how you feel when you come into a space that, you know, is disorganized, and how you feel when you come into a place that is organized, right? Like, how do you feel if you're invited to someone's house? It's just not a moral thing. You know, you should have your things in a certain way. It's order to yourself, right? Whatever order is for you. So, because order is kind of beauty. You know, you need to have your tools where you can find them, you know, whatever your tools are. If you're a carpenter or a writer, you need to have your computer working order, or your pens ready to go, and your desk cleared off enough that you can find your computer. And the more that you instill this as a way, the more kind of peaceful and calm you will be. When there's chaos around us, we kind of respond chaotically to it. And so the more we can kind of come back to ourselves, then we can then decide how we want to respond to the chaos, rather than join it, add more volume to it, you know, yell also, drive badly also, you know, or to be intense because other people are being intense, or to be scared because other people are scared. Right? It matters, like everything matters. How you breathe matters. How you show up matters, and the way that you show up. And so with this Jupiter Chiron Venus conjunction of that beautiful image that I showed, it is such an opportunity to really, in these next 2 years, and I kind of want you to think of like that, like it's going to be a little bit of a process, 2 years of really healing something deep and old. And really, because it's Saturn, really heal it. So you've got time, you know, and because it's the full moon, it kind of highlights it and brightens it, and it kind of tells you what the subject is. So the thing that might be happening in your life that you're sort of working on in some way is good to realize, what am I working on right now? What sort of am I seeing? What am I seeing when I look in any direction? There it is again, there it is again. That's the subject. And to kind of pace yourself for a 2.5 year or 2 year at least kind of cycle of working something deeper and deeper and deeper. You know how when we do the solstice word, that we unfold that word for a year. You know, that whole year we're working with that same phrase or that same word all year long. And we begin to know it and its opposite, right? And we know it and it's every angle. We can know it from upside down and right side up and inside out. So it's things, I think we like to get things quickly and we like to understand things fast, but spiritual things are like the ocean. They're long. They are the willingness to stand open to something for a long time and not know exactly how it's going to turn out or what the exact answer is. To be able to do that is a kind of genius, because we really want that quicker answer that sounds right or fixes it or, okay, I'm done. We want to get finished. We want to be at the end. But the process is the thing. And that process of the solstice word unfolding for a whole year is a practice that I made because of that, because that's how I know I am willing to not know things for a really long time. And because of that, I have a deeper wisdom, right? Because I'm willing to stand there and not know and not know and not know, but not take my eye off the subject. I'm still on the subject like I really want to know. But I really know that those superficial answers that come up first are superficial answers, that that's not all there is to know about that. Every subject's like that. We're like that. Getting to know ourselves is like that. Like, just know yourself is a lifelong endeavor and, adventure, because, we think we know ourselves. And then there's more, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. And it keeps unfolding, because that's the nature of beingness, is it is ever unfolding, ever opening, ever the thousand-petaled lotus. It keeps opening more. And the more you know, the more you know you don't know, is the old saying, but also the more you know, the more there is to know. It's just you're standing here asking questions, from the first grader that's learning numbers to the high school student that's learning calculus, right? It's just a whole new world of understanding, and it keeps doing that more and more. And math becomes art at some point. It kind of turns around on itself because it's this pure, pure form. So what in your life might you want to bring some of this consciousness to, this deliberate consciousness, this on purpose analysis and observation, right? And I'm going to pull a tree card for us right now while I'm talking. So, value. I like that. So value is, and then the other one I pulled before we started is infinite. Infinite value. Put them together. Infinite value. These are the soul tree deck that I really love. They just have one word on them. Value and infinite value is sort of what I'm saying. The infinite expansion of the soul. The infinite expansion of the soul through the vehicle of the self. So that discovery, that realization, and that you're looking at it over a long period. Really, we were looking at it over the whole life, right? We're not there till we're there. And so we want to go, now I want to know, now I'm going to read the book, now I want to know all the answers. But it's still like there's so much more to know. You could read every book on the subject, right? And you'd still just know a little bit, And so that willingness to not know, but to stay attending. And I always use the image of sentry angels. I always see these closed eyes, closed mouths angels that are like stone pillars of pure consciousness. They're just standing there like forever. They're just going to stand there forever and hold and hold and hold and hold with you, with us, with me. And in a way, we can do that too, as we realize that even it happens and that that's a truth, then we can hold forever, right, for someone or for our families and mothers are very good at this with children, right? It's inherent to it, right? We can hold the children in our hearts, and no matter what they do, we just know, like we hold that they will figure it out, no matter how much. When they're teenagers, maybe acting out, and things are happening that are scary to the parent, but the parent, a mother especially, can hold and know their well-being and know how unique they are, and that they're going to be okay. And I'm always reminding parents of that, because it's really important to remember, well, we can do that for our friend, for our world. We can hold for the highest good for our world. And even though it might be very messy and going through its phases, we can still keep holding like sentry angels, like just holding that space in the calm and the purity of our calm consciousness, rather than our scattered consciousness, right? So when we meditate, we're not scattered. We're coming in, we're getting still, we're getting quiet. And even though when you meditate, you might feel scattered, because maybe it's been that kind of day or that kind of year or that kind of life so far, right? And it can feel like jumping into a big chaotic machine, and it's going like a washing machine, going chung, 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 chung. And then, but still, no matter where you stand, the minute that you step into that space with that intention and that consciousness, you're starting to bring this energy by your intention, not by your willpower. Make it be calm. It's not that. It's bringing it to calm. It's remembering it into calm, rather than forcing, manhandling it into calm. We are allowing it to return to love. And so meditation can be, in my classes when I teach many ideas in these classes, but one of them is how do you do that when the mind is racing, or the mind is revving, or the mind is afraid, or the person that we are afraid about what's happening to somebody, or to everywhere we look. Sometimes it can seem pretty chaotic out there, and so it's just a practice. So very Virgo, right? It's just a practice. So you come back to your A, B, C, Ds. You just come back to the beginning. You start at the beginning. And the more chaotic things are, the more important it is to start at the beginning. Because if you don't know A, B, C really, really well, you shouldn't leap to, M, N yet, right? Just like do it in order. You all know your ABCs, but when you're a kid, you don't. You don't know that order. You just know the first part, A, B, C, D, or something, And so, and in the same way that we learn that when we're children, not only do we learn our ABCDs, we learn how to use letters and communicate with letters and write and read. I mean, it's like a miracle that we have that there's letters, and that we have this genius in us that starts with ABCDs. So you first have to start at the beginning, and we think that, we ought to know that, or I took a class about that a long time ago, or I used to know that, but sometimes it just breaks down, and when anything breaks down, when we get derailed, you go back to the basics. Just start over. It won't take you the time that it did when you first learned it, of course. But don't skip those steps, because if that's not stable, then everything you build on top of that is also not stable, and more so as it gets higher and higher off the ground, and it gets to be very unwieldy, or like a house of cards, and you just go, and it's gone. So you build that base, the structure, the square, the four, right? That makes the structure that you can build soundly upon. And so what in your life needs that? Is it in your inner life? Is it in your outer life? Is it in your business life? Is it with your relationship with money, or with your relationship even, or with friends, or learning, or how you're feeding yourself, or how you're taking care of yourself? All those, it could be anything, right? So where in your life do you want to have this discipline in dreaming? Where do you want to bring this practice into? So we're going to do a meditation, and sort of that's going to be the point. And then we'll sort of leave a space in there for you to answer that from your higher self rather than the personality. So it might be the same, the answer that the personality gives or that the soul does, but it could be different. So be open to being offered something deeper for what will be the best for your life right now, that you can bring more a practice to, or some discipline to. Remember, the word discipline comes from discipling, right? To be in service to, right? For the higher good. So if you have a candle, you can use it. If you don't, just light one in your mind and find a place how you want to be for your meditation, to be comfortable. Ideally, in meditation, we always want to sit up rather than lie down. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, you want to be upright if possible for the vertical alignment of the chakras. Good. And so here we go. So when you're ready to, just close your eyes and be gently aware of all these conscious souls here and all these conscious souls on the planet here. That are willing, that are wishing. Sometimes we don't have the tools, to do the work that we need, and we just haven't had access to a teacher or to a method or a routine, right? But we do. We all do here. And so that's a good thing to be grateful for. To know that there's a community, that you're not alone, that there's a lot of conscious people out there, a lot. And even when you go out there, it might not seem like it sometimes, but it's still true. There's a lot. And there's a lot of aspirational conscious people that are more beginning, learning, just starting. And those ones that are yearning, or that they're just young, literally, they're 3 and 4. When you were 3 and 4, you were aspirational. That's why you're meditating now. That's why you're aware of spiritual ideas in your life now. It's because it was already there, and you're refinding it. So breath by breath, just let yourself organize into the present. Organize into the present. Your point of power is in the present. And just breath by breath, feeling yourself become more and more here with yourself. With yourself. I am present. That sounds easy, and it is not easy. How often are we really present? Fully, 100% present. I'm just wondering that. How often? How can we be more so? When it's easy, when it's hard. To be present to the easy, to be present to the hard. There's gifts in it all, and the gift of Chiron, the wounded healer, right? There's a gift in the wound. And that's a teaching in its own right. To be present to the pain, to be present to the confusion, to be present to the helplessness, to be present to the reactions, to be present to the prejudice? I mean, you pick the subject, it doesn't matter. Can you be present to this world in all its shapes and forms? Which means not in the past, not in the future, not in the regret, not in the anxiety about the future. What if this happens? Right? That pulls us into the future. Oh, I can't believe that happened. It pulls us into the past, the guilt, the regret, or the what if of the future. That all we have is in this moment now. We create from here. Breath by breath, more and more present. Becoming more and more present. And in that presence, there's a simplicity. One of the main things I encounter in my work world with my clients is overthinking, right? We're like racing through, trying to find the answer to. And I want to say, shh, wait for it, wait for it, wait, wait, shh. Into the stillness, into the calm. Be still and know. Be still. And know. Feel the power of the phrase, how it cultivates a calm, this inner Om that reflects the outer Om, where the whole universe is in an Om. Om. Om, and it's simple, see? It's so simple. No great idea right now. No big plan, no big finale. Right this minute. Just being here, now. Be still and know. And in this spaciousness, in this spaciousness, inside the calm, call forth this soft question, thought, of what would or what needs my attention in my life, what needs my presence, what needs to come into order. And just impressionistically sense what that might be. What do you want to realize? What do you want to make real? What do you want to bring into reality? What do you want to realize in yourself? And take it as you receive it, simply, not as a task or as a challenge. But as an opportunity, as simple as exhaling. Because it's true. And because it's true, it's simple. And just sit in the silence for some more moments. To receive impression on this big full moon of Virgo. That needs your practical, applied attention. To bring order, to bring purity, to bring discipling, discipline, to bring discernment, about. And just feel the grace that comes with it when the soul and the self connect. And recognize the soul if you haven't already. Feel the overlighting soul, soul's blessing. That pillar, that angelic presence of a guardian angel. Guardian angel. All of this in the calm. All of this made from peace, not stress. What's my next step? Where can I bring this grace, this humility, this peace? Yeah. For real healing in your real life, in real time, without pressure or expectation, just intention. Spiritual intention and personal attention. Attention, intention. And just letting all of this sort of blend into this now, into this present, breathing it, integrating it as you, as part of you, letting it form into thoughts, words, and deeds in time, in perfect time. No rush, no urgency with spiritual work, but attention and intention. And when you're ready to, letting your breath get deeper and fuller. Until it starts to feel natural to transition out of this meditation when you're ready to. I was telling somebody today, it's just a step to the left. You know, it's like it doesn't have to be this urgent. It's just a step to the left. It's a small movement, not a radical one. You know? That comes from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Chop wood, carry water. And another sort of last thought for this full moon is the idea of random acts of kindness. You know, that was a big thing for a long time. We're all talking about that. And it is that sort of mitzvah, you know, where you do something and nobody even knows, right? Or they do, it doesn't matter. But that you consciously do good, right? On purpose. You do the best thing you can think of. You bring your friend their favorite flower, right? Because you do. Because it's love in action. And so, you know, all those ways of practical, oh, that's what it is. My whole concept in spirituality is the practical application of spiritual principle, the practical application of spiritual. So it's funny because talk about Virgo Pisces, right? The practical application of spiritual principle, like how this thing that we don't even have words for, right? The mystery and the practical application of it. So to me, it's, you know, how they say in real estate, you know, it's location, location, location. And mine is application, application, application. You actually do these things that we're talking about, these ideas that are part of not, you know, non-judgment, you know, not reacting, all those things that we actually do them. Those are practices. That's a discipline. That's a decision that we make all the time, over and over again, even when it's really hard. And you still choose it. So be brave. Everything's going to be okay. You know, it's a funny time, really, really challenging. But be the lighthouse, you know, just be that lighthouse that's constant. And even though the waves are high, you know, the lighthouse just stands there. It's that sentry angel. So you stand. So thank you, everyone. I'm glad that we're all together on the big full moon. And the next one is the Wesak coming up. I'm going to be at Meditation Mount doing it there live. And I'm going to do my full moon too. So I'm not sure exactly what the dates of that, but it's around April 5th, April 6th. Watch for that. I'm doing a meditation class on Tuesday, March 21st for the equinox, on just a regular meditation class. So if you'll get an email on that if you're interested in being part of that. So thank you for being part of this. I wish you really well. Keep it simple. Keep it so simple. Don't overreach right now. Take care of those A, B, C, D things. You know, make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're sleeping. Do the best you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't sleep for whatever reason, right? You know, if you have a new baby, you're not going to be sleeping much. But you still try within that to take care of yourself as best as you can. And Virgo is all about taking care taking care of each other, taking care of yourself, and those routines that support that. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next time.